Occasionally, when a new car first goes on sale, despite the amount of hype, seeing physical cars actually hit the roads tends to be a slow trickle, and especially in today's climate. But I distinctly remember the week that the Model Ys were first being delivered. I saw them absolutely everywhere. Now, that could be down to the fact that this thing looks like a great big white whale on the road. However, it was clear that there was a huge hype over this model. And do you know what? It's easy to understand. The Model 3 had absolutely paved the way for EV ownership. With all the benefits of that tried and tested battery technology, you had that charging network, and it's now just in a much more practical family package. Cast your minds back to the time when I tested out the Model 3. I was so convinced that I was going to hate that car, but it soon won me over with all of its gadgetry. However, since then I have tested many more fabulous electric cars. And will the Model Y be my cup of tea? Well, hopefully that's what we're going to find out in today's video. So keep watching if you'd like to see that, and if you do like new car reviews and car content, then please don't forget to go ahead and hit subscribe to see more of my videos. Tesla claims around 75% of the Model Y's components are shared with the Model 3. But there's one key reason you might want to buy a Model Y instead. Extra practicality is what matters here. It may look ginormous, but actually the Y is no wider than the 3. However, it is taller. That extra 150mm of body height doesn't just take it into the all-important SUV sphere. It also brings more room for passengers and luggage alike. The Tesla Model Y is also a hatchback, unlike the Model 3, which means much better access. Sitting in the back of the Model Y, and my instant reaction is it feels so light and airy. There's so much light coming through that windscreen and the panoramic sunroof. And despite the fact that it's got a panoramic sunroof, I've got loads of headroom thanks to the additional height of this car. And I've also got loads of legroom as well. That's not a problem at all. And because there's no transmission tunnel, you're definitely not going to be fighting for leg space. But what you might be fighting for is shoulder space. It's actually not quite as wide back here as I was expecting, but then again that's probably down to the fact that it's not that much wider than the Model 3. But to be honest, I think 3 small people or 2 average sized people would be more than comfortable back here. It's got that really soft synthetic leather that you get in the front of the car, and it's also got a few amenities like a pull-out armrest with 2 cup holders, though there isn't any through loading, which I'm quite surprised about. You can bring this middle seat down if you really needed to have some extra space, but let's face it, there's so much space in that boot, I don't think it's going to be a problem. I've also got 2 USB-C charge ports, and I've got some hooks for your coats or anything you want to hang up. The only disappointing thing is for a car which feels so premium, it doesn't actually have any rear climate control settings. I am really sorry if anyone likes the look of this car or if anyone owns one of these cars, because I guess it's a bit like when you say a baby is ugly. But personally, I think this rear view is a little bit hideous. However, it really shines in its practicality. And I guess that is what matters to most people. Now, inside this boot, you will find a whopping 854 litres. That is an enormous amount of space, really practical. Now, I did read online that a lot of people complained that there wasn't a parcel shelf, but my car does seem to have a parcel shelf. I'm not sure if that means that it's been added because people complained about it, or whether this is an optional extra. I'll find out and I'll probably pop it on the screen down below. But inside here, you will find tons of space. You've got loads of under boot storage as well. Like, that is really vast. And there's also space behind that too, as if that wasn't enough. And you've also got buttons here where you can electronically deploy the rear seats as well, so you can fold those flat. And I don't know the exact figure, but I can imagine that this is ginormous with the back seats down, so I'll pop it on the screen. But I already know it's going to be an enormous figure. Now, the boot is actually quite high, but what's very cool about the Tesla is you can also set how high you'd like this boot to come up. And you can do that by pulling it down into your chosen position, and then you can hold onto the boot, and that will set it in that position. So when you next open your boot back up, it should only open to that position, which is pretty cool. And as if that massive amount of boot space wasn't enough, you also get some additional storage, just like the Model 3, underneath the bonnet. Now inside here you'll find 117 litres of space, which is pretty impressive, and it's really handy for storing muddy items because it's wipe clean, and that means that everything in your boot can stay nice and clean, and your muddy cables and welly boots and things like that can be stored in here, again just aiding to that practicality. There are 3 options to choose from when it comes to the Y. Even the entry-level rear-wheel drive starting from £52,000 gets some hard-to-beat statistics. These include a range of 283 miles and a 0 to 60 time of 6.6 seconds. The dual-motor model will set you back a further £6,000, increases the range to 331 miles and drops the 0 to 60 time to 4.8 seconds. The last option is for those of you that are power-hungry. The Model Y Performance. Range is compromised slightly to 319 miles, but it has a blistering 0 to 60 time of 3.5 seconds. 3.5 seconds? Seriously, who needs to go that fast in an SUV? Plus, it will set you back a further £10,000. Moving on to the interior of the Y, and you probably won't be surprised to discover that it's very similar to the 3. It has that very stripped back minimalist feel. Of course, it's also dominated by the same 15-inch colour touchscreen. This thing is massive. I swear every time I get into a Tesla it feels like it gets bigger and bigger. It's bigger than most people's tablets or even laptops that they have in their house. And of course the thing that is kind of unique to Tesla is that they don't have a digital instrument cluster. They just have this singular screen. So all of your driver information will appear on the right, meaning that you do have to glance slightly off of the road, which might feel a bit counterintuitive, but the Tesla is very, very smart and it has a lot of safety systems as standard. So I don't particularly think this is something you need to worry about. And if distractions are something that does worry you, then you're probably going to hate the infotainment system because there is so much to play around with. On the left-hand side, you've got this massive Google Maps. Now, Tesla is a very tech-focused brand, and rather than having Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, they like to run their own systems on the touchscreen, which I kind of understand, but still I really like to have both, and it would be nice to have both, which I think eventually Tesla may be forced to do. But for now you just have the Google Maps system on here, and you can link your phone the old school way with Bluetooth. You have loads of things to play around with on here. On the little toy box, you've got all the fun things that you see online. You can change the colour of your car displayed on the screen. All of these funky options. There's a lot of systems on this infotainment system which are practical but also fun. And if you do want to see all of those, there is a ton of YouTube videos that you can find. But for now, we're just going to focus on this car. You get 2 wireless charging pads up front, and I really love these. I find them really easy to use, and they don't look like wireless charging pads, which I quite like. And of course, because this is the Y, it's massive, just like the exterior. It's just huge, and there is so much storage space. In the front here, you've got 2 cup holders. You've also got a massive amount of storage up front to tidy things away. And you've also got the armrest, which again goes really far back and has loads of storage in there. Now, Tesla have chosen to have this as a solid unit and have options for you to be able to store items away, rather than some other companies which have gone for like a floating console, which you can tuck things underneath. But with Tesla, I feel like it's all very simple, all very clean, and that means everything is hidden away, and I actually quite like that. These seats are really soft, although the black leather would not necessarily be my choice. I was obsessed with the white interior that I spent a bit of time with a little while ago. It just felt a bit more modern, a bit more clean. This car with the black leather and also the wood trim on the dash, I guess just feels a little bit more classic, a little bit more old in its styling. You get electrically adjustable seats, which is good, and in the Model Y you have a really commanding driving view. You feel like you sit up so much higher than perhaps any other SUV that I've driven before. And you also get the benefit of having this wonderful panoramic sunroof, so it really feels really light and airy. The car that I'm driving is the dual motor, but not the performance. But regardless of not being the performance variant, it still really shifts. Even though this car is of course bigger and heavier than the Model 3, it feels pretty nimble on the roads thanks to its masses of power. It's surprising actually, because I may fall into the category of people who think that Teslas are actually a little bit too quick. No one really needs that much power, especially not in an SUV package like this. It doesn't necessarily handle as well as the Model 3 either, and it also gets stiffer suspension to deal with that added weight, and that means it's not quite as comfortable either. If you get a road which is particularly full of potholes or a little bit rough, it can be a little bit uncomfortable, which is a shame from something which feels like it should be so plush and large and squishy. Something like an Audi Q4 e-tron or a Hyundai Ioniq 5 are much more comfortable to drive. But yet again, the reasons for people buying a Tesla are still very apparent. It has that blistering performance, but it also has some fantastic driver assistance aids. Now, essentially, Tesla were one of the first brands to be set up for having fully autonomous vehicles, and we're almost getting there. And you can feel that from a car like this, with all of the safety systems and all of your traffic assist and your cruise control on long journeys. It really does almost take away all of the effort we put into driving and letting the car take control. Like that or not, it is the future, and Tesla does have the crown for having one of the best systems. One of the biggest appeals to owning a Model Y is having access to the supercharger network. According to Tesla, the Model Y will recoup up to 162 miles in just 15 minutes once plugged into your local supercharger station. This is comparable to rivals like the Mustang Mach-E, which via a 150 kilowatt charger will go from 0 to 80% in around 30 minutes. Take into account the impressive charging times, efficient range and 2% benefit in kind tax rates, the Model Y is a compelling and cost-effective choice. I still think that if you need the luggage space, then this car makes sense. But the Tesla Model 3 has a lot more going for it. It's slightly more comfortable on the road, it's also got better handling. It's all over a better car package. But this has the space to be able to fit comfortably 5 adults, and that will always be appealing. Sure, just like the Tesla Model 3, the Tesla Model Y is not perfect. But then again, absolutely no car out there is. To me, this does very much feel like a giant washing machine on wheels rather than actually a car. But that is the car enthusiast in me. The sensible car EV enthusiast in me knows that this is seriously hard to beat. It gets a really good driving range which is consistent. I have much less range anxiety in this car than anything else. And that interior quality, it may be a little bit bland and there's not a lot going on, but what there is tons and tons of space. And it feels really light and airy thanks to the massive panoramic sunroof. And there's just tons of storage options, that ginormous boot and the storage under the bonnet as well, where you can keep your muddy cables so that they don't get things in the boot dirty. There is just so much going for the Tesla Model Y. And when people often ask me, Tish, you've driven so many electric cars, which ones would you recommend? It's really hard for me to not recommend a Tesla because, hate it or not, they are doing everything pretty spot on. But let me know, have once again I been brainwashed by Tesla? Or do you agree with me? You just can't really beat them. Let me know in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed the video, please go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. And if you wanted to see more videos from me on this channel, Auto Social UK, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Until next time guys, see you later.